Shaan, welcome to the fourth edition of the Data Innovation Summit here in Stockholm. It's really nice to have you and Alteryx again with us and all together organize this great event. Before we go on, can you please tell us a bit more about yourself and your background, your company you're representing?
Yeah, thank you. So, thanks for being here. As you know, my name's Shaan Mistry. I've been with Alteryx for about 4 years now. Prior to that, my background has been for the last 10 years in the BI and analytics space. So working with in the visualization and BI industry, and then moving on to more advanced analytics. So working for companies that do more high-end, high computing analytics. But that then led me to Alteryx.
So, Shaan, the data-driven innovation, analytics, data science, machine learning, AI, IoT, data engineering is changing the world today. So can you please give us some interesting examples of how to turn data into action, and how is Alteryx, in fact, helping in all this data revolution happening every day?
So as part of my job, I get to travel the world, meeting some of our customers and hearing their stories about what their challenges are to date. As part of that, where Alteryx can really help is to help understand really what are the pain points in their day-to-day work. So part of the biggest factor at the moment is skill. People want to do certain analytical pieces of work, but they don't really have the skill to do it. So they have the need, they have the want, but they don't have the skill to get there. So Alteryx can really come in to help bridge the gap between the analytic work today, which is very code heavy, but doing it in a way which is more code free. So the idea is that depending on your skill level, depending on your maybe background, that really doesn't matter.
The domain expertise of a specific problem, right?
Yep. So it really doesn't matter. It's if you're in a place which is if you're trying to develop your day-to-day work, but you're having to rely on other teams or maybe a certain skill, using something like Alteryx, which is a code-free or code-friendly platform, it really speaks to a wide range of users. And the biggest challenge is that a lot of different users within a business are all completely disparate or all spread out, and they don't use the same technology. Which means that from department to department, they're using one set of technology or skill, and the other department can't then reuse it. So how can we bring all of this together in a single platform?
So, Shaan, you presented on the analytics and visualization stage, and the title of your talk was Enterprise Analytics, Time to Disrupt the Disconnect. Can you make a short recap, please?
Yeah.
What's all about?
So the first part is identifying one of the issues, and that is around the barriers within the business and between different departments and within different processes. So the idea is that how do we remove the barriers? So first we have to understand the pain points that a lot of these users and departments face, and then how can we put a solution in place which speaks to all of them at once. So the idea here is that a lot of the time businesses invest in multiple technologies, and they're having to do so time and time again. Sometimes they might adopt a technology, and after 12 months they realize that actually it's not fit for purpose. Or they might invest in something that is for a longer period of time, but it starts to become more shelfware, and it's being paid for, but people aren't using it. So how can we actually create a more seamless single pane of glass approach to the business?
When it comes to enterprise analytics, what are some of its challenges?
And I think some of the challenges stem from skill level, because you might have users that are very technically savvy, and maybe they're more in the data science space, so they know how to code. But then you've got other users that want to do analytics, but they can't quite get to that point because they don't have that ability to code and script. So if we could have something for those users that they can understand what they need to do and they can interpret results, then that way it's bridging that skill gap, so they can perform analytics without actually having to invest a lot of time and effort and learning how to code.
That's why you're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. From the business perspective, the strategic side, how to generate a return on investments from it?
Yes, that's a great point. I mean, if you think about the time it takes to write maybe some type of code or script, this takes time, and even to integrate it within the business to perform advanced analytics. So if you could have something that gets you there quicker and faster and smarter, that is in turn going to save you kind of money and again help with your kind of ROI.
Okay, for those, what would some of your recommendations be for those organizations that have just started their journey? I mean, we have to be honest that there are still organizations who are in the beginning steps, even though this thing is moving every day. What would some of your suggestions be for accelerating the process of turning this data into action?
I suppose one part of this is don't jump at the first solution that comes to mind. There was time where certain technology stacks were being presented, and it was all the rage at certain conferences, and people jumped on those bandwagons, and then a few years later they're getting to the point where they realize that actually it was great for one day,
But
then the reality is that they don't actually target and make life easier for all of their users. So again, it's kind of, if you're starting off and you're kind of new to this, you've got the chance, very early on, not to start building those barriers within the business.
don't try to swim the ocean.
Yes.
Okay, so considering the amount of data, the enormous technology available, the competence, the old processes in place, according to you, where is the biggest impact of data-driven innovation?
The biggest impact?
From your perspective, of course, from your industry.
I think from what I see personally, it's kind of the users. The users themselves are the one that's having to actually find the answers, ask the questions, and actually what they're finding is helping drive the business. They're driving the kind of analytics, but it's kind of how we can kind of enable them to get to that point.
Great. Shaan, one last question. Everything is changing, but according to you, what is the prediction for the next 12 months?
So it's a great point. I mean, it's just something that even kind of, being here today, just speaking to a few people, it's all around being able to do advanced analytics, but have a helping hand. We don't all spend hours of time, maybe doing kind of data science work, but we would like to actually get to that point. If we could have something that gives us a helping hand in a kind of an easy to use way, and maybe even kind of some type of suggestive system that is in place and some type of platform where we don't have to spend hours creating things from scratch. If we had that helping hand, that's where we want to get to. We want to be able to get to those results and get to those insights quicker and faster.
Great. Shaan, thank you very much for being here today, for delivering the presentation. Thanks to Alteryx for, again, joining us in organizing this event. And thank you for this interview.
Cheers.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Cheers.